Okay, good afternoon. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied, and today I'm very pleased to have with me as my guest Billy Abbott, who's a partner at O'Melveny. Billy, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Billy, I've interviewed a lot of lawyers, and you have one of the more unusual backgrounds. I see that you actually have a math major as an undergrad degree. So, I want to ask you, what age were you interested in math? When did you decide you want to become a math major? Tell me about that.
Sure. So I've been interested in math and kind of my favorite subject for pretty much as long as I can remember. I like the logic of it, working through problems, solving problems was always interesting to me, and enjoyed it enough that I wanted to try it out in college and liked it there. It gets more advanced as you go. Obviously, it kind of turns away from just the boring numbers stuff, which people kind of think of when they think of math, like you're a math major, so why don't you calculate the tip for me, like that kind of thing. It becomes much more of the problem solving aspects, the logic to it, rather than adding and multiplying numbers. So that's
Were you
that's
one of those math whizzes, like doing calculus at a very early age or anything like that?
No, but that's more. I don't know. I didn't have the interest in trying that.
I
I
see, I
liked it.
see.
I liked it, but I didn't go that far.
Well, what kind of math classes did you take in college? Because obviously math, it does cover a lot of different topics. Give me an idea what you specialized in.
Sure. So I ended up specializing in primarily in statistics, the statistics
Mm,
side of it. You have all the basic college math courses. So you do linear algebra and derivatives and that kind of stuff. But then you move into the more logic-based part of it. And so you do what's called like elementary analysis, where you're going more into proving some of the concepts in calculus and learning to do that as opposed to just calculating out things
yep.
that you might have done in high school calculus. But then I shifted over to the statistics side of things, mostly because I found the practical side interesting as well as
Mm,
the
mm,
logic of it. It
mm.
definitely there's not a lot of real world applications as you're moving through life for proving calculus. So like that was interesting, but didn't hold my interest as much as statistics, which obviously you see a lot more and but still gets you the kind of the logical aspect of it. So
Any real analysis? Did you do real analysis?
I didn't go that far. I got through elementary analysis and then decided to switch gears.
I see. I
Just for
see.
just for that reason, I was like, I didn't hold my attention as much as kind of getting the same logical thinking aspects of it, but with more practical applications. So
Yeah,
I
right,
switched
right.
gears.
Well, what was your thinking when you switched to statistics? In terms of career, what were you thinking you were going to do with that, or did you know?
So I at that point knew I was going to be go to law school. I had
Oh,
already decided at that point.
oh.
Yeah, so I decided I was both I was actually a double major in government and math.
Mm,
So basically just I found both of them interesting despite not totally going with each other.
yeah, right.
And so I think at that point I had decided that you could kind of get to me the closest combination of those things was going to law school, right?
Huh.
It was more when I switched to statistics, like that side of things, it was more what I found interesting, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
right.
less career driven specifically for that, but I found it more interesting and it just comes out more often.
Well, obviously, you didn't need a math degree to go to law school. You could have just dropped it, right? I mean, you didn't have to even complete getting the degree. You could have just finished with the government degree, right? That was another possibility, I'm assuming.
Sure, but like I said, I like it. So it sounds weird. Maybe it sounds weird to people, but I did like it.
Did you do you have to do like a senior thesis or anything like that?
No,
No,
it was just undergrad.
just undergrad. Yeah, no thesis.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So at what point did you actually decide you wanted to go to law school? Before you went to college, or was during college you figured that out?
I'd always thought about it. It was one of those
Huh.
like, um, you like to argue and you like to do debate club and things like that. You're like, oh, I
Okay.
guess I should be a lawyer.
I
Um,
see.
you you of course learn in law school and practicing law that that's not what you do all day. You do some of that, but you're not going on Law and Order in your typical
Yeah,
practice, especially when you become a tax lawyer like I did.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
not doing
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that was
yeah,
kind of what initially made me think of it. And then it was more talking with people and professors and other people who were headed to law school, just understanding what that actually meant and how the thinking of it fit in well with what I think my skills are. And I
yeah,
think they line up pretty closely with both government on the policy side of things and math on the logic side of things. And I
yeah,
think they both of those especially connected me to tax law in particular, and the skills that you take from those subjects really fit in well with tax, both from the logic side of things and obviously thinking through the problems. You see a lot more of that versus someone who might be on the corporate side doing negotiating a lot more and focusing on that aspect, or litigation where you're drafting briefs and things like that. It really fit in more with what I enjoy doing. And same thing on the policy side of things, right? It helps when you're looking at the tax rules to understand what the policy behind it is and have a good sense for that to be able to look. It's easy to look at the rules maybe, but it's you also often want to understand what the rules are trying to do,
yeah.
to help you better understand how you can help make sure you're fitting within those rules.
Well, when did you discover or figure out that tax is what you wanted to be? Was that during law school or maybe when you were clerking, or when did you figure that part out?
Yeah, it was during law school that I knew I wanted to try it at least. So I took the class in law school and really enjoyed it
Uh-huh.
much differently than probably 90% of the people that or the people that I talk to now that said, "God, I hated that class. How did you do that?" But
And you're like the one person that like really loved it or whatever.
right. I think basically the people who are tax lawyers now are basically 100% of the people that enjoyed that class. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
So that you just took to it like a duck to water and you're like, this is what I want to do.
yeah, I liked it. And then it's one thing to kind of do it academically, but then when I was a summer associate, uh, tried uh, tried it in actual practice and enjoyed it there
Mm,
too.
mm.
So ended up wanting to stick with that. I stuck with that through and then did my clerkship at the tax court as well and just kept
Oh,
kept
wow.
practicing until I ended up at the law firms.
Yeah, right. Did you ever consider? I know a lot of tax lawyers get an LLM. Is that something you considered?
No, not really. I mean, well, actually, it was something I considered for a short time because I was a summer associate in 2009,
Uh-huh.
so which was a very terrible time to be a
Oh,
summer
yeah, right,
associate.
right. Yeah, right.
Nervous time. So I thought about it after that when we had some time after law school before the law firms were taking all of us back.
Yeah, yeah,
So I thought
yeah.
about it then, but I think it was really I wanted to get into the more practical aspects of it, and LLM is useful, but it really is, I think, is more focused on the academic side of things, which I enjoy, but just doesn't necessarily get you as much information. I mean, I'm sure it's helpful, but it's not as practical. And I got kind of a similar experience, I think, working on the tax court, which it's practical, but also somewhat academic in that you're writing those legal
Yeah.
opinions and things like that. So
So what is your tax practice now? Are you more on the transactional side? You're more on the advisory side? You're more on the adversarial side? What does your tax practice look like now?
sure. So we just do transactional at
Mm,
OMLB in the tax group. We
okay.
handle transactions, and I primarily focus on most of my time is on M&A, work with private equity funds and M&A in particular, fund formations, and just kind of different things here. I got pulled into doing crypto work, so I end up looking at crypto stuff from a tax perspective, and just things like that pop up that you need someone to do.
So I take it you're pretty pleased with your career choice and where you ended up in law relative to your math interests and all that. Like you feel like it's been a good fit and everything.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think it was the right choice for me. I don't know that I would have loved doing another form of law. I don't know that I would have loved spending my time negotiating as much as or drafting briefs all the time. So I'm really happy with where I ended up.
Well, it's a good thing you found tax because it sounds like that wasn't in your plan originally.
Yeah, I just kind of I didn't really know what I
Mm,
wanted to do.
mm,
I
mm,
think
mm,
going in like most law students, going it sounded good to be a lawyer, and I thought I would like the what we were doing at law school, but just not I had zero sense for what you actually did when you got to a law firm. Basically until I walked in as a summer associate. So I think it it definitely ended up being that the practical aspects lined up with what I wanted to do as well. So definitely enjoyed that.
Do you do anything recreationally that you get to use your math muscles in any way?
I think I get enough of using those muscles as a lawyer. I don't need to do that on my off time either.
Well, Billy, I really appreciate you telling me this story and sharing your journey. As I said, it's one of the more unusual backgrounds, and I really appreciate you taking the time to tell me about it.
Yeah, of course. And to anyone who's thinking about it, I recommend it for math majors everywhere.
Very good. This is Richard Hsu and Billy Abbott. Thanks.
Thanks.